Okay, so what we're going to do now is put some columns into our building as a first point. So what we're going to use is architectural columns instead of structural columns, mainly because all we want to see is where the columns would be for aesthetic purposes. Now, Revit can obviously calculate loads and look at loads in terms of columns and beams and that kind of stuff. We're not doing that here. We are purely using them for aesthetic reasons to show where columns would be in the model so that we can model around them or use them part of our design and how we line things up in the spaces in that. Okay, so we're using architectural columns. Now, the difference between architectural columns and structural columns is that architectural columns will take on the properties of the walls that intersect with them. So, for example, if you've got plasterboard on your internal walls, the plasterboard would form around the column. Okay, which saves us time because then we don't have to go back and fix all these columns and put on the finishing coverings of the columns, put plasterboard and all that. So it does save us time in the long run to do like that. So to do some architecture columns, if you make sure you're in ground floor, if you go to architecture, you'll see a little expansion tab on columns. If you click on that, and click on architectural column. Now here you get a number of standard ones. For me, you can pick and choose any of them that you want. If you want to create your own one, or if you've got a specific one in mind, if you click on edit type, and if you go to duplicate, I'll create a specific one at 500 times 500 and click OK. And that now I've created a copy of the previous one, but I'm going to change now the depth and width of those to match what I want. So I click on 500 for the depth and 500 for the width. Click OK. And that's now creating me my own one at 500 to 500. So that's how you go back in and change them. To place columns, if you make sure at the top here, if you go click on height, and if you click, or you can click on roof level if you want at this point. So that will create you columns from ground floor to roof level, so that you don't have to go back and change it again. So if you just hover over the grid lines, you'll see it'll snap to every grid intersection. So if you go to every grid line, put those in. Okay, click escape when you're done. Now to see them in 3D, if you go to 3D or open the tab up in 3D and check them out that they are at ground floor to roof level. If they're not, if you click on one column, SA on your keyboard, so SA on your keyboard, and that selects all the columns. Alternatively, if you click one column and right click on it and then select all instances in view, and that'll select all the columns. In your properties panel, you can manually go in and change what you need to change. So you can either change what level you want certain things to go. For example, if you want to change it to different levels, you can do it from there. Okay. If you need it offsets, obviously you can put that in as well. So that's how you adjust the levels if they're not right in the first place. Back to ground floor, and that is creating our levels, creating our columns, sorry, for our building.